Scaring everybody, though.
Since the beginning of time, hundreds of innocent people have become victims of some of the world's most brutal serial killers. From cannibalism to decapitation, these are the top 10 most horrific serial killers based on body count. Number 10. Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo, the Barbie and Ken killers. Like most families, siblings usually have a hard time getting along. However, they resolve their issues and move on with their day. That may be the case, but the Barbie and Ken killers took this to heart.
Believe the party to be a female, young female.
With the help of her husband, Carla Homolka raped and murdered her sister Tammy, as well as at least 2 other young women. They were arrested in 1993 and convicted of 12 years in jail.
I left prints everywhere, and they covered it up and let me kill the rest of those guys to turn me into a serial killer.
Number 9. Eileen Wuornos. Known for being one of the only female serial killers, Wuornos began her criminal career as a prostitute. Between 1989 and 1990, Eileen killed 7 men in Florida that had raped or attempted to rape her during the time she was working as a prostitute. According to her, she shot the victims as self-defense and was later convicted to death by lethal injection.
Milwaukee Emergency Operator 71.
Okay, hi, I'm on 25th and State, and this is...
Number 8. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Cannibal. Just as the number suggests, Dahmer ate 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991. He was an American serial killer and sex offender who committed rape, murder, and dismemberment. Although he was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, schizotypal personality disorder, and psychotic disorder, he was found legally sane and sentenced to 15 terms of life imprisonment on February 15, 1992.
Knocked her unconscious. They handcuffed her and put her in the passenger side of the car.
Number 7. Ted Bundy. Because he was regarded as handsome and charismatic, Bundy was able to win his victims' trust. Theodore Bundy was a serial killer, kidnapper, rapist, burglar, and necrophile who assaulted and murdered 30 women between 1974 and 1978. If clowns weren't already your worst nightmare, they certainly are now. Number 6. John Wayne Gacy, Killer Clown. Gacy sexually assaulted and murdered at least 33 teenage boys and young men between 1972 and 1978.
The crawl space would need a sump pump. But then I learned the first time it rained that this ground gets wet under there, and then the crawl space actually floods up to a foot deep in water.
He would lure his victims dressed as Pogo the Clown before assaulting, killing, and eventually burying them in the crawl space of his house. On March 13, 1980, he was sentenced to death. Number 5. The Zodiac Killer. Infamously known for being unknown, the Zodiac Killer's identity has never been discovered. The killer received this name because of a series of taunting letters sent to the local Bay Area press. These letters included 4 cryptograms. To this day, only one has been deciphered. It is believed that 20 through 28 murders are linked to the Zodiac Killer. However, he claimed 37 murders to a local newspaper. Number 4. Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov. As the name suggests, Chikatilo mutilated and sexually assaulted at least 52 women and children between 1978 and 1990. Chikatilo would lure his victims into the woods where he would murder them. He was caught by police during this act and was sentenced to death on October 1992. Number 3. Alexander Pichushkin. Known as the chessboard killer, Pichushkin was convicted of murdering 48 people in 2007. Following his arrest, the police discovered a checkerboard with dates on all but 2 squares, apparently connected to the murders he committed. He appeared to be in competition with Andrei Chikatilo, our number 4. Number 2. Donald Pee Wee Gaskins. As a young child, Donald Gaskins was teased about his small frame, leading him to a violent childhood. At just the age of 11, he dropped out of school and was arrested for gangbanging a younger girl. Since then, he lived a life full of crime, committing more than 100 murders. Finally, number 1, Pedro Lopez, the Monster of the Andes. Sentenced for killing 80 girls, Lopez claims to have raped and killed more than 300 girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. He became known as the Monster of the Andes in 1980 when he led police to 53 graves. In 1983, he was found guilty of the murder of 110 girls in Ecuador, confessing to a further 240 murders in Peru and Colombia. Lopez was released in 1998 from a psychiatric hospital on good behavior.